Hey everyone, this is Rob Bates from the Jewelry Wire, and I'm joined with Avi Krawitz from the Diamond Press and Edahn Golan from Tenoris. And we are three diamond analysts with, I think we figured out we have 75 years combined total between us, and there's a little gray. We have a little gray on our heads, so it's you can kind of see that. But we're here to discuss all the interesting stuff that's happening in the diamond industry. And I'm in New York City, and Avi's in Haifa, and Adon is in Tel Aviv. How you guys doing?
All good.
We're
All
good.
good?
Good
You
to
guys
be
look
here, Rob.
good.
Thanks.
You look good.
Stop.
How long have you had that beard, Adon? I'm so used to you without, because I met you without the beard.
The beard is fairly new. I have no idea. 5 years, 6 years.
You like it? I had one for a while.
Yeah, it's
I think it's good with you when you're bald.
it's a
You're
different
not bald, but you need something to like
life.
frame your face.
It's treated differently. People talk to you differently.
Yeah,
You feel
it makes you look smarter, right? Don't you think? It makes you
That and the
like you're
glasses.
like you're a rabbi. You look like a rabbi now. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to talk about all the stuff that's happening in the diamond business, and I guess the first thing we can talk about is De Beers Desert Diamonds campaign, which is they just expanded it to bridal. They're going to expand it to classics later this year. So they're going full throttle. And I was just at an exhibition in New York, and I talked to some of the architects of the campaign. And I mean, it's an interesting campaign in that, I think it was kind of billed as a quote unquote beacon. And I think one of the reasons people like the name, people just like to hear the thing that something is a beacon because they're used to beacons. Beacons were very successful for a while. So it's kind of a name the trade is comfortable with. But the way they described it, and this is kind of like some marketing lingo that I only recently kind of encountered and become familiar with, is what they call an upper funnel campaign, which basically means it's kind of like the kind of overarching idea. And they said Diamond is Forever was kind of the classic upper funnel campaign. And the reason they think that Desert Diamonds is an upper funnel campaign is just kind of introducing the idea that diamonds come in many colors and associating them with the desert, which is an association with nature, and just kind of getting that idea out there that's supposed to, at least in theory, generate more excitement for the category. And, I think there's a lot, I think it's safe to say that a lot of people are a little confused about the campaign. They don't understand if there's a call to action, like can people actually go into a jewelry store and buy a desert diamond? But from the statistics they gave, and I think this is how they feel it's one of the most successful campaigns that they've had. And I was wondering if you guys have heard any feedback on it, or
Avi, do you want to?
Well, I mean, I haven't heard any feedback as to its success, but it's interesting because the way I think about like a beacon concept that De Beers has done in the past is that anyone can it's a 3-stone ring, for example, and so anyone can design a 3-stone ring. Desert diamonds, it's colored, it's a warmer toned and warmer hues, and so any diamond with a yellow, champagne, or brownish sort of tints to it can be positioned as a desert, as within that category. I don't know. It's interesting. Is Desert Diamonds a De Beers trademark, or is it positioned as a concept that anyone can sort of just tap into and use in their sales pitch?
Yeah, I think it's more of a beacon, which is, even if it is trademarked, it's kind of open to the trade. I mean, they do have specific marketing
Did with
materials. And I think that's
designs in the
one of the
past.
things they said was that they didn't have enough product, right? That, that people, because the ads, I mean, you guys aren't in the United States, but they definitely did. They must have spent a lot of money on this campaign because we listened to like Z100, which is the local kind of hits radio station in the
Right.
United States and in New York at least. And I heard a whole bunch of Desert Diamonds commercials. So they definitely did a lot of advertising for it. I think the thing is, if people went into a jewelry store and asked for Desert Diamonds, would they be there? In a lot of cases, they would not be there. And they said that was because they had a short time frame to put the campaign together and to get the trade ready for the campaign. But
But it's not a
uh,
brand. It's not a product line that's
Brand.
in the
yeah,
store.
it's more of as I said, it's more of a funnel, this quote unquote upper funnel
See,
thing
I,
that is
I, I
like,
see this whole campaign, and I'm not saying this out of knowledge, it's just my gut feeling. I see this whole campaign as, first of all, as a way of approaching losing market share in the context of lab grown. I can tell you, if you look at lab grown sales, there's a drop in sales of lab grown SIs. There's a drop in VSs. The one item that sells that is growing is VVSs, and it's all EF. So, lab grown is moving towards the quote unquote perfect diamond, right? And very standardized. And I think in that regard, De Beers going not just saying that natural diamonds are natural, but taking it one step beyond and talking about what is natural. So, it has blemishes, it has colors, it has hues, it has, variety. And in that regard, Desert Diamonds is spot on. Will it be successful? I don't know. But I can tell you that so we at Tenoris, allow me a little plug. One of the things that we're tracking is sales by color, loose sales by color, and when we look at browns in general, natural aren't doing very well. But if you look at brown, it's kind of outperforming, or at least doing a little bit better in the last 2, 3 quarters than they did than white diamonds are doing. So to
and
start
that's
with,
that's since the campaign started.
it's not amazingly better,
Yeah,
but it seems to be a little better, and that's more than we can say about a lot of other aspects of the industry. So in that regard, I think that they're doing a very smart thing. And if you remember that there was the Journey diamond design, and what was that ring with the loop with the remember
there's the
that?
right hand ring. There
And
was the
before that, they had the
3 stone
right hand
ring.
ring, and so they had all these designs that they didn't want for themselves. They didn't want to make money from the fact that you are using their designs. They wanted to sell diamonds. But the kind of thing that we always saw about a diamond is forever was that it created this feeling that diamonds are cool, valuable, etc. But it wasn't a reason to walk into a store. Having a design or having an idea like um, the Desert Diamonds, I think you walk by a jewelry store and say, "Oh, wait a second, I want to see what that is all about." And in that regard, I think it's a very clever campaign.
Just on the lab grown point, Edahn, I agree with you that it's kind of the motivation behind the campaign. They're not using that in their messaging at all. The motivation um, is because as lab grown is moving towards that perfect diamond, it's eating into the market share of lesser quality diamonds, natural diamonds, and so consumers would theoretically be sold a nicer E-color VVS lab grown than an SI lower color
Yeah,
natural
but the
diamond
VVSs, the white natural VVSs are doing very well, especially the bigger ones
of lab grown.
of natural.
But what I'm saying is that the competing product is not is not VVS versus VVS lab grown versus natural. It's VVS lab grown versus a VVS and high color lab grown versus lower clarity, lower color within the same sort of price range as of natural. So that's the first thing. The other is that the that generally, as you say, the natural diamond market and demand has sort of segmented to higher quality goods, and that's left these sort of a large portion of run of mine production in a weaker position, and that's where I see this this sort of where De Beers is smart in trying to sort of broaden broaden the base of demand that's out there. So they're marketing a category that's not a natural choice and has kind of been affected by this whole market dynamic.
Right. And one of the things they are fighting with lab grown is that lab growns are consistently high quality. Uh, I think they want this idea of, you can get something that's individual, that's flawed, that has a kind of off color or weird color. They always say it's not a brown campaign, Desert Diamonds, but I think that's kind of how people are taking it anyway. You can have something, they just want to, they want the idea that you can have something a little bit more individual, and to tie that into the whole idea of that a natural diamond is individual as opposed to the competitor, which is mass produced relatively with a certain consistency. One thing I thought you said that was interesting, Edahn, was that SI goods for lab grown have fallen off. And I guess my question is, are they still even producing those goods, right? Do they still sell them? Are they still out there?
Actually, not the large companies, the large growers are not. If it comes out during the process of growth, there's a lot of QA stages, and if they see that halfway through that something went wrong with a batch, they'll throw it out. I mean, it's not worth the cost of energy to keep it running and then trying to sell it. And so SIs are in almost accidental results that were not caught in time, and and so I create a price list, and it used to be that the price list will run all the way down to I1s, and this quarter there's no data for SIs, so I killed the I1s column a while ago, and then I killed and now I'm killing the SIs because it's just there's so little transactions on that.
Is that at retail? Because I actually made this point to I forget who it was, and it was on the GIA move to change their grading of lab grown, and their argument was that there's a narrower range of goods in the market, and I forget who it was that said to me, but actually you do sort of, so it's kind of true, and that is the trend, but you do actually see a broader range of goods still in the market. I'm wondering if that's what's happening at retail in the lab grown versus like your
That's inventory.
Right. Is that the inventory story?
Inventory. I remember a couple of years ago, Rob interviewed Avi Levy, who had an IGI in New York, and I remember you asked him, will there be a need for certification after lab grown reaches a certain pinnacle in their production and the technology? And he was very frank, even though it went contrary to his business needs. He said, yeah, at some point will be no difference between them. And the whole, cause of why you should have a certificate will be gone, because all of them are going to be deflawless and all of them are going to be, expertly polished. And I mean, why? Why waste the money on it? Really? I mean,
now IGI came up with a solution in letting them being graded in the factories, I guess, having the little labs in the factories.
With the Serene machines, it's very easy.
Yeah,
Rob, you have more of a handle on the US sort of consumer. Do you think they buy into the individuality of of natural diamonds and the flawless. What's the word? The opposite of being flawless is to have flaws.
Yeah, to be
And
the individual,
like,
yes, the
rather than having,
imperfect nature.
if a D flawless is becoming a generic product, do they would they rather compromise on that quality for the sake of having something unique? You know.
Well, I mean, I think consumers are unique also, and I don't think all of them will. Clearly, some people just want big, beautiful looking rocks, and that's the kind of target lab grown customer, and that's obviously a huge, huge market. I think some people will go for it. I think I think it resonates somewhat, and you saw it with the Taylor Swift, and there's been a bunch of articles. I don't know if they're planted or not, that people are looking for. Uh, Diamonds with flaws that are unique, that are because I think at some point, when everybody starts wearing like a big 3 carat lab grown, it will lose its, there's there won't be anything interesting or exciting about it, and the idea that you kind of paid extra to get something that's unique and that quote unquote represents you, I think could have a resonance. I don't, I think that's one of the ideas behind the campaign. That's one of the things they're thinking about. Work 100%. I don't think anybody knows, but yeah, I think I do think there is. Uh, I think there's a market for that. I think people want a engagement ring that's unique, and I think that's one of the reasons why colored stones are doing so well right now, is because people do want something that's a little different. And I think even with uh, I think this kind of lab grown versus natural has probably turned people off to the category, or perhaps even turned jewelers off to the category in general. And that's why, you're starting to see this big kind of explosion in colored stones.
Well, the idea of same but different has been around for, well established. The unique, personalized sort of item. It's been around for more than a decade now. But I think that one of the issues about size with lab grown is, think of this is a story I heard from a jeweler on the East Coast. Said somebody, elderly woman walked in and she wants a bigger diamond, and he asks her a little bit about it, and she said, my maid. It's happened in Florida. My maid walked in and she has a massive diamond, and now she and I were, and it was just incomprehensible to her. She wanted a bigger diamond. So there is the one-upmanship that is still being played out, and I mean, there are many reasons why to prefer either one. Is how it's how you view yourself, because at the end of the day, you're buying something for fun and not any other reason.
Yeah, and I think, regarding the one-upmanship, I think there is starting to see, and I've heard this from jewelers, that if somebody has a big diamond, and I told the story. I was recently, actually, I was also in Florida, talking to one of my wife's cousins, and he had his fiance there, and she had this huge ring, and you kind of knew it was lab. And I think that when people are starting to get these big diamonds, people are starting to question, well, is this lab? Is this natural? Is this, and it's, there's a whole kind of, you're seeing some discussions online about the etiquette. Is it okay to ask? Should you ask? Is it appropriate? Does it matter? Um, so
Well,
I
nobody
think,
At the
yeah.
same time, I don't think
somebody
people
once
have
said to
any.
me, "You can only afford a fake Rolex if everybody knows you're wealthy."
I don't think consumers have any sort of qualms about saying that it's lab grown anymore. I think the taboo is kind of, they're over. In fact, they'll quite happily offer the information if they need to.
Yeah, though you could argue. I think it depends. I think certain people would probably consider it more prestigious just because it costs more money to wear a natural. Whether you know whether whether that's a value system you buy into. That's something we can.
Yeah.
That's a long topic. But yeah, I think there are some people who do think, okay, natural, since it's more expensive, is a quote, there's a little bit more kind of weight to it, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So what
Oh,
do you guys think about desert diamonds?
there's
I mean, I think you made a good point, Avi, in what you wrote today, in that every time, because the people who make these campaigns are extremely smart. They know they've studied diamonds for years, sometimes decades in some cases, so they know a lot about diamonds, and that you get sometimes these concepts they do. You're like desert diamonds. It doesn't necessarily resonate immediately, but and you mentioned that there's always like kind of like a lot of backseat driving that, everybody wants De Beers to do stuff, and then when they do stuff, they say, "Oh, we don't like it."
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to criticize De Beers because they have such a prominent role in the industry and they have such a legacy of success, and then kind of falling off the
Of
of,
not success,
of
yes.
yeah. Well, certainly in marketing, they changed their strategy, and so there's this expectation about legendary campaigns, and the effectiveness is really in the day to day, and they're investing a lot of money in this, as you said, Edahn. And I think you got to give it a chance, and also give it the backing, because these sort of beacon concepts require industry involvement, particularly at a retail level. And so De Beers can do as much as it can, but it has a certain limit without the broader sort of support of the industry at every level. So I think and I think it's a smart, as we've discussed, it's a smart approach. That category. I think there's potential. People are looking for color, and there is a uniqueness about those stones, sort of riding the wave of that Taylor Swift ring. It's
although it
it,
was serendipity, I gotta tell you.
well, yeah. I mean, it's
But I
I
think
mean
she
the follow up is what
They
counts.
wrote it well.
if you
Yeah.
think of her as somebody who's, you know, broadly representative of her generation. I mean, I hate to even say something like that, but like somebody who's kind of a mirror of a lot of what people want to be or want to see themselves as, or just like any celebrity, people have this kind of parasocial relationship with her. I think the fact that she wanted something that was unique and different is probably relatively indicative of what her following and what people her age would want. Not that I'm a Taylor Swift
You're not
expert.
as well.
Aren't you? Are you guys Taylor Swift
You have
fans
the
or no?
profile and look about you, but we'll take your word for it.
All right. Okay. So cool. So desert diamonds. So you want to talk about
How did you celebrate World Diamond Day, Rob?
how did I celebrate World
Yeah.
Diamond Day?
Yeah.
I
Did you take
was
your
on
wife?
my
Did you take your
computer and
wife
I
out for dinner to celebrate, or
no, we
on
didn't.
with champagne?
I first of all, I did not post anything because I people, I really do try to stay neutral. I try to stay out of these things.
Well, here's your
Um,
opportunity. Tell us your diamond story, Rob. Come on.
I don't really, honestly, I don't really have a diamond story. It's,
Five
it
books
was
on
in
the
my
top.
family. It was, but that's, and I just got kind of, I met Martin Rappaport, and he got me into this, and um, but
Were your parents in the
no, my
industry?
grandfather was
Oh,
in
your
the business.
grandfather. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, he was actually and then nobody in the generation afterwards went because it was three girls and none of the son-in-laws went into it. But he was he was a member of the Diamond Dealers Club, and I remember when I started. Um, I thought, hey, my grandfather's in the business. I could use this as an in. And, I think most people didn't care because, they're used to dealing with like people's grandkids and they're like, oh, yeah, all right, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but you came
Get
into it
away, get away.
from a
What?
journalist. You came into it from a journalistic.
Yeah, I was came in as a
Yeah.
journalist and he had died like, you know, 10 or
Right.
15 years
Right.
before I got into it. So, but yeah, I think it gave me there were people who I met who knew my grandfather, and it definitely gave me more of a
Bit of
feeling for the
street
industry.
cred.
What?
A
Yeah,
bit of street
little
cred.
street cred.
Right.
Apparently, like, he used to, like a lot of diamond dealers, I think a lot at that time, you had to do everything on paper, right? So he used to like do these calculations on paper. And there used to be like all these papers like lying around the house, like him, like, working out all the numbers and stuff like that. Uh, because, you become, I guess, obsessive about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a
So
topic
what do
for
you guys do
next book.
for World Diamond Day?
Well, Rob, you should take that and turn it into another book.
Yeah, well, it's part of my grandfather's name was Max, and the main character
Oh,
is
okay.
named
Very
Max, and
cool.
my mother's name was Mimi, actually. So there you go. So it's all it's
It's all
some of
tied
it is very, very loosely based
Okay.
on things that I heard growing up and stuff. But
So, and
what did
Avi,
you
how
got?
did you celebrate
I went crazy.
your eighth? Your no, nothing.
I bought 10 diamonds that day, and
Yeah. I put in a
And
bid.
so it's funny. I was thinking to myself, okay, I see. I'm starting to see the visuals, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, on the day I gotta post something just to show my support. It's like a politician putting on a flag, right? Uh, um, the day arrives, and I completely forget about it. And at the end of the day, I go on Instagrams, and my entire feed is so I completely missed out. And actually today I was thinking, it's like maybe I should do like kind of a belated.
yeah, I'm still seeing World Diamond Day posts,
Yeah.
because LinkedIn like shows you things from like 5 weeks ago. So
Yeah,
it's still.
Well, what is your story, Edahn? I mean, does
Yeah,
your
well, you agree?
relationship with the diamond industry or diamonds precede?
how did I get into the industry?
Well, do you have a story that sort of got you interested in
So here's the funny thing. My father was a geologist, and he used to talk about. I mean, he never really worked in the area, but he always, spoke about. Go for a walk in the desert. They'll pick up a stone and talk about it. And I've always found it the science behind, stones, fascinating. And when I joined the IDEX Online with farming, I knew nothing about diamonds, and I had to learn it from scratch. And many years later, when my father passed away, I'm going through his papers, and I was born in the United States. My parents are Israelis, and we kind of moved back to Israel. My dad was looking for a job when we moved back to Israel. And it turns out that he wanted to open a something that had to do with diamond polishing in the city, in a remote city in southern Israel. Part of the deal was that he can bring industrial diamonds from the United States. Now, but the whole business plan was laid out, and he had a couple of, tiny little diamonds as a sample. And I was like, all these years I was working the diamond industry. Now, once you mentioned that to me, anyway,
amazing that you found that.
I found a brief go with, I don't know, 4 or 5 stones.
And Avi, we haven't heard your diamond story. Your World
Well,
Diamond. Did you
I mean,
post?
I actually did write about it, and I did post about it. But it's I mean, growing up in South Africa, we kind of would go on these school trips as kids, and the one that stood out to me was to Kimberley, and
The big hole?
the big hole, yeah, and I remember certain elements of it. I actually don't remember seeing the big hole itself, but I remember them giving us sort of these sifting pans to play around in, and they put a polished diamond in one of them as like a little competition, and which I did not win. But that sort of image sort of stuck in my mind, and I don't know if you guys have been to Kimberley at all. It's a very
I think years ago.
interesting town, and just you kind of feel the history of the industry there. It's really a fun. I mean, it's a great history. I love it. But that's kind of where it was subconsciously, I think it brought me, or it instilled something in me some sort of a connection to the industry. But otherwise, I kind of fell into it like you guys did. It was a job opening at Rappaport that brought me into another. It was just another business journalist position that I kind of ticked the boxes for, but it was a good fit in the end.
Yeah, I remember. So, I mean, when I went to interview at Rappaport, so I was probably like 24, 25. So this is a little while ago. I said, hey, my grandfather was in business. I grew up in the business. I know all about the business, which of course was, BS, knew zero about the business. And I think he pitied me or whatever. But I remember going and thinking, I'm kind of going backwards, I'm going, like my family kind of got out of this business and now I'm going back into the business, which I wrote a little bit about that in actually my first book. But, it really is a fascinating business. I remember Rappaport can be waiting for a half hour and you could hear him like, talking very animatedly to his other workers. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be my thing. And then he's like, oh, hey, what, are you good? Are you any good? What is this? Can you do this? I want somebody who's good, really good. And so I'm sure you had a similar process, Avi. But
Actually, I don't know if I should take this personally, but Martin actually fell asleep in my interview. he had just arrived back from New York or something to Israel, and he was telling me about the company and the industry, and he did all the talking. And I don't know, either he found me very boring, or his stories, or he's just tired. But my experience after that was similar. Yeah.
Yeah, he used to pull double all-nighters when I was there. And, there's not many reasons for it. And, I run my own business now. It's very stressful. It's a lot of work, but, I don't pull many all-nighters. He used to pull two all-nighters in a row. And, by the end, even a man with his limitless energy. And let me just say, even though I respect him tremendously, I mean, the guy's a genius and he gave me my start and I think he has a good heart. And, I respect him in a lot of ways. But even a man with his limitless energy kind of ran out after a double all-nighter, which one would expect.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just want to say one of the things that I liked about World Diamond Day, and actually it's actually good that on our first episode we discussed our kind of diamond origin stories. One of the things I liked about World Diamond Day was, I mean, if there's anything, the natural diamond people don't agree with on much, right? At this point, everybody's kind of like a little dispirited. They're a little upset. They're kind of mad at everything. But the one thing they all kind of agree on is that they like the product and they believe in the product and they feel the product has been maligned and they don't feel the product is getting a fair shake. And I think one of the things that I think World Diamond Day did was kind of let everybody kind of speak their piece. And there wasn't a lot of lab bashing, which was refreshing. There was a non-zero amount, and there was certainly kind of some bashing back from the lab people. But yeah, it was just mostly like, hey, let's talk about why we believe our product is a good one and we can do it in our own way. And I think everybody has their opinion on that, but I think everybody agrees with the kind of basic concept that they really believe in it and they like it and they feel passionate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a great initiative. It was a great initiative. What stood out is that each person's story is unique, and that's kind of the whole point. When we talk up the diamond stories so much, and that it's the emotional connection and to sort of see the different approach that each post sort of brought, I thought was very refreshing. I agree with you. I think be interesting to see how it evolves and how it develops in future editions.
Yeah, and I spoke to the gentleman who originated it, and I was a little skeptical because I think like a lot of these things is, there's like national, I've been, researching like national days. So there's like National Hot Dog Day. I mean, there's all sorts of national, like, National Pen Day or National, whatever day. But, he was extremely sincere in what he wanted to do and what he hoped it would accomplish. And I think he kind of, in a way, he kind of won me over. He kind of said, this is, just an opportunity for everybody to tell their stories. And I think it was very smart of the Natural Diamond Council to get on board with this thing. It's a very low cost initiative, right?
Yeah,
It's not,
yeah,
they didn't have to do that much. And it kind of, eh, you know, we'll see how much it really matters, but it was kind of like in a way, a kind of psychological reset. It's like saying, hey, this is, we're a trade and we like our product and we believe in it. And let's kind of tell the world why, so.
And I'm sure that you guys have the similar experience. I've seen a lot of it on social media, but a lot of my social media is associated with the industry. Do you see any, or do you think there was any sort of reflection, discussion about this outside of our immediate, outside of the industry?
I would guess, so again, I've been
I didn't
researching
see
it and it
anything
was,
like this.
April 8th was also National Zoo Lovers Day, right? So did you see any zoo content? I have kids, right? I didn't see any zoo content, right? But it was National Zoo Lovers Day. So I assume if you're in the zoo industry, you would probably see tons of zoo content, but
Oh, you should try the
otherwise you would not.
well,
Zoom. Zoom is
the
Zoo
only
lovers. And hey, I like zoos, and I have kids. So I have a kid. So it's like, it would be certainly feasible that I would see that on my feed, but I did not. So I
yeah.
would guess, I would guess mostly in the industry, but it's not, we all have friends outside the industry and I think it's more of a viral kind of grassroots campaign. So it's not necessarily something
the
that's going to.
NBC put out a press release today about it, and they said that there was a 30% rise in searching for natural diamonds.
Really?
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now compared to the weekly average. So it can't hurt.
No, I don't think
You
I
know?
don't think it hurt, and I
Yeah,
think it was a nice little positive event, and
yeah,
I'm glad to hear your diamond stories.
me
Um,
too.
and some of them were very nice, actually. Some of them were
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
and I think certainly another thing that I liked about it was that you did have people from producer countries like, in particular Botswana, but, Namibia also, and, people talking about, okay, diamonds did this for me. And I think, those are the voices and actually in India, a lot of people from India also, I think those
yeah,
are the voices that sometimes kind of get cut out of the conversation. So it
yeah,
was good to hear those people talk a little bit too.
yeah. So before we wrap up, should we do a quick round of what we're looking out for and what we're or what stood out, what's standing out at the moment in the industry, or what stories caught your eye?
Sure. Why don't you start since I have to think of one?
Oh well, then I'll happily. I mean, you wrote about it, but it was a Bloomberg piece, right? On the De
Yeah.
Beers sale, which gave a sort of short list of people who are bidding, and apparently the deadline to submit a bid is coming up this week, the week of. Beginning April 13th, in case this gets published later. But it was very interesting to see that shortlist. There was at least one name that I wasn't aware of that popped up.
Who's
And
that?
sorry,
Who's that?
the Steinmetz group.
Olivia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Near. Yeah,
yeah,
there's not.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the subplot there is the Botswana government's involvement there, and there was a report. We know there's been sort of noise around it wanting to take a majority stake in De Beers, and then that was kind of refuted a week or two ago in a story, and now this kind of brought that idea back that that they might still be looking at a majority stake. So it's interesting that De Beers story is gonna keep
Yeah,
us on our toes. Yeah,
there's a couple there were a couple of mistakes in the story. First of all, it's not that they need to submit a bid now. This is after several rounds where there were groups that did not make it through several rounds that were kind of weeded out. There were presentations, including the last one that I know of was in London. And so what we're seeing right now is the last
right,
round,
right.
after which there's going to be a decision, unless they're going to ask. I don't know this for a fact, but my understanding is that there were a bunch of comments made. They kind of were told, you need to do better, or you haven't addressed this and that. And then,
Anglo made those comments, or
yeah, Anglo is the seller. And
yeah.
then, my feeling is, I don't know this for a fact, but in May they're going to make a decision. Or in
Well,
other
I think
words,
that will
here's the
help.
interesting part: the and first of all, maybe we should address the issue of Botswana. Botswana isn't a candidate like Neil Nut or the other groups. They're a very different kind of candidate. I wouldn't be surprised if the decision on Botswana, Angola, Namibia, etc., will be done after the sale is sort of concluded. So instead of Anglo cutting the deal with those countries, it will be taken at a later stage. Considering that Botswana already has 15% and they have a right of first refusal, so they know what's going on in the negotiations. But the other thing is that the new buyer is going to get the new list, which goes into effect in June. The new list of site holders. So it was kind of forced on the buyers, but it will be an interesting outcome.
Yeah, I think I think it's a lot of people are very skeptical about Botswana wanting to increase its exposure to diamonds when I think the kind of conventional wisdom is it should be diversifying. On the other hand, if you think about, the fact that Botswana cut its production this year, Russia didn't necessarily cut its production this year, Angola didn't necessarily cut its production this year, and I would assume the reason Botswana cut its production was partly because, Anglo made it. And so I can see from that standpoint why they would want to have a bigger say in diamond production and how De Beers run. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I think that's so. As for stories we're watching, I think that's the big story, and
Yeah,
that's huge. And all the things we talked about, whether it be the Natural Diamond Council or Desert Diamonds or all these things, largely depend on what will happen with De Beers.
yeah. I think the one issue that I'm most concerned with is what kind of long-term outlook the buyer will have. If it will be a Gareth Penny or nearly not that are thinking long term. I don't know anything about O'Keefe in that regard, but if they're going to be dominated by these two gentlemen, whichever group, and my hope is that they will think long term. But somebody once pointed out to me that the two worst things that ever happened to the diamond industry were the De Beers decisions to kill its monopoly and then the Oppenheimers stepping away. Um, and in many ways, I understand that statement because during those times, De Beers could dictate where the market is going, and it did it very well. We spoke about Desert Diamond, and people are sitting on the sidelines, and where are they? How that's all they're doing, etc. They're doing plenty, but if they were at the situation we were at 20 years ago, they could have dictated that to the market. And it's my hope that whomever the buyer would be, they won't think quarter to quarter, which is, I think, one of the contributing factors to how Anglo was viewing De Beers and really hurt the game in the long run.
Yeah, and I think the current contempt of the CEO of Anglo towards the beers, which is called a drag on earnings. It's not really and these constant markdowns. I mean, I think he really does not. It's not his kind of business. He's not interested in it, and he just seems to not care for it or like it. And
but also, I mean, talk about timing timing the market. The Oppenheimers got out in the perfect moment, and Anglo, they doubled down at the, as pretty much at the peak. Since 2012, the market's just been on a ride, and they didn't know what to do with it. It's not their typical commodity, that they're used to, and so it makes complete sense that they just want to. That's why I don't quite understand if they want to be picky at all. I think they're lucky they've got 3 bids. Frankly, what could possibly be their notes? Like this,
and they keep making it. They keep making it lower. Yeah. Like, hey, you know what? 2 billion, 1 billion.
Talking of Oppenheimer, there's an element in there that we tend to kind of overlook, simply because we're so diamond focused. But the Oppenheimers historically bought De Beers through Anglo-American. Anglo-American was formed by Oppenheimer, right? In later years, there was a lot of strife between or disagreement between the Oppenheimers and their very large holding in Anglo-American, and slowly they sold off their holdings in Anglo-American. And in Anglo-American, the shareholders felt, let's just get rid of them completely. And it was either to buy out Nikki and Jonathan and Nikki's sister, or sell De Beers. And it was just easier, I think, for them to just buy out Nikki. And I think that eagerness on their part is why Nikki did so well.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to kind of wrap up? You want to anything you guys want to plug? Edahn?
My price list is coming out.
Yes. And where can they get that?
I don't know, the Q1. I finished it yesterday. Yeah. I'm gonna start.
Where can they get your price list?
On my website. I'm gonna post it everywhere.
You have to give the address. I'm trying to get you the plug. It's a plug opportunity.
He's trying to help you there.
Yeah.
EdahnGolan.com or
EdahnGolan.com. And Avi?
Everything you want to know about me is on thediamondpress.com, and stay tuned for some hopefully interesting developments.
Yeah, and I'm at my new venture, thejewelrywire.com. And right now we don't. This is the first episode of this podcast, so we don't have any kind of website or anything. But maybe we'll develop it as things go on, and we'd love to hear your comments and feedback if you enjoyed this episode and what you would like to see in future episodes. So thanks a lot, guys. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. See you guys.
And Rob, good luck with the path ahead.